Well, we're back to more cold weather in the central and eastern U.S. And we've got cloudy skies here for a change. And this is a lot of mid-level overcast up at about 10,000 feet. Hardly any low clouds at all. And that's because there's a lot of dry air advecting in from the north, keeping the lower 10,000 feet pretty clear. All right, here's what the chart looks like. Those of you who watched this morning's brief webcast, you might have noticed this little band of cold air coming down into the Great Lakes, into the Midwest, and into the Texas-Oklahoma area. And it looks like the axis of that trough runs from about Missouri this evening down to about Lubbock and El Paso. And they're getting some very inclement weather in northern Mexico right now, from Chihuahua possibly all the way down to Monterey and Durango. This is very unusual weather, and temperatures are running up to about 40 degrees below seasonal normals in that area. So that's really where the brunt of this very strong evaporative cooling and wet bulbing is going on, is down there. But up to the north, there's warm air coming in behind. And it looks like over the next week or so, basically anywhere east of this line is going to be a little colder than average, and then on the other side things should be kind of warm. All right, let's take a look at the satellite, and this is the water vapor imagery. And you can see a couple of systems coming through Texas and Louisiana there. There's a pretty strong one. And everything's got a very striated look around the north part of that band, and that's telling us that there's a lot of jet stream energy linked up with these systems here. And up from the north, some cool air coming down in from the backside. Okay, let's see what's going on in chat. Kind of a weeknight here. Thursday is usually like this. Ron Chalfant is with us, very windy in Southern California. Several large fires there, yeah, with the Santa Ana winds. Why is the high pressure remaining stagnant over the west? That would be because of the blocking pattern that we've had over the past several days. We're just gradually starting to kind of undo that there. Michael Burrell is going to be out in the snowstorm in Georgia getting some pictures. Got Ryan Toomey's here and Bill Johnson. Cold in Milwaukee. All right, let's see what chart we're going to look at next. I guess the potential temperature. And that's showing a lot of the cold air coming down there into northern Mexico. Temperatures below normal in that area. The backside of that front looks like it's pretty much against the front range right there. Once you go into the Denver area, yeah, even Denver and Cheyenne, strong west winds there, and you can see temperatures there right around 60. So maybe we're going to put the back edge of that front, maybe something like that right there. And that probably goes all the way into Mexico, something like that. And let's see, out in Atlanta, along the Gulf Coast, yeah, I guess I'm going to put that front through Tampa and Orlando. So coming up there on Lake Okeechobee, up to Sarasota, and Tampa front is right in that area there. And then out in the western U.S., this is all northerly flow here, but I think there may be a little reinforcing shot of cold air coming down from the Great Basin, kind of like that right there. One really good way to look at the surface plots, we can go to Meteo Center. They've got a pretty good plot for North America we can use briefly. We'll bring that up here. And there's where we can see that very large high. That's consisting of a lot of cold Pacific air and Western Canadian air covering this entire area. And a very strong pressure differential there between northern Nevada and Los Angeles. So this is a good pattern here for the Santa Ana winds in Southern California there. Also on around Tonopah and Bishop, temperature still about 40 degrees in that area. And that little front that I talked about, I think that's showing up right there, kind of like a little, like I said, a little reinforcement. Temperatures go from about 60 there at Vegas all the way down to about 20 degrees in northern Nevada. So that's quite a temperature difference right there. And normally at Tonopah in December, temperature should be running with this kind of pattern probably around 30 to 35, not 40 like what we see here. And there's a look at Texas there. There's the high pressure coming in from the west, and definitely some cold air. Freeze line running like this here. Yep, pretty much all the way from DFW back to south of Abilene and down to about Sanderson, down to the Big Bend. And yeah, temperatures in the 20s and low 30s in this area right here. So this is definitely hitting West Texas and New Mexico pretty hard in that area right there. But 25 right there, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. That shows you the blocking effect. The front just cannot get past those western Sierra Nevada mountains right there, so it's getting kind of stuck right there. And then taking a look out in the Georgia area, Alabama, Mississippi. Yep, getting a little bit of rain showers through here. The freeze line located through Tennessee into northern Arkansas like that. So we're escaping any heavy winter weather. Most of the bands of winter weather, or most of the bands of precip, they're well to the south, and the freeze is well up to the north like that. And then up to the north, looks like maybe a little bit of an Alberta Clipper coming in through Minnesota, Lake Superior. See, I'm trying to pick out exactly where this is. I think maybe we're looking at something like that for that Alberta Clipper. So north of there, temperatures not too cold. We're looking at about maybe lower 20s to upper teens coming in behind. And that's pretty similar to what we have down to the south. So not much of a difference. There is warm weather along the lee side right there in Alberta. Okay, let's take a look at the upper air conditions at Texas. This is the sounding for Fort Worth this morning. Let me see if I can pull up this afternoon's sounding. So we can see that the cold air tops out at about 18,000 feet right there. So this is very deep cold air. And near the top of it, we've got a pretty strong frontal inversion lots of moist air, and we can see that that's linked up with the jet right there. And below that, lots of dry air. Here's the wet bulb temperatures. I've got the temperature. Oh, that's right. We can't draw on RAYOB for some reason. Let me see if I can bring that up. Hang on a second. This is one thing that's good about RAYOB. You can set the upper limit on the soundings like that. Okay, so I'm going to set that as default, and there we go. We can see right here, this is the temperature line. And then over here we have the dew point line. And in between, we've got the wet bulb plotted. So beneath that area of upper level moisture right here, we've got a lot of sub-freezing wet bulb temperatures, and all the way down to the surface, wet bulb is -2. So basically what we're doing is we're precipitating into this dry air where the relative humidity is low. In fact, I can show you the relative humidity. Let me shrink this a little bit. Yeah, so I put the cursor right here, and right over here at the top left, you can read off the RH right there. So as I come below the base of the cloud, we drop from 73 down to 30 and down to 20 at about 9,000 feet. So yeah, down to 14%, very dry air below the cloud base. So what we're getting is a lot of virga underneath through much of Texas. And we're also getting a lot of dry bulbing beneath the cloud base. So this is helping to generate a lot of cold air, temperatures in the 20s and lower 30s near the surface there. So it's not conducive to hitting the ground, but definitely for producing cold air. All right, let's take a look at the forecast, and we'll just look at the southwestern U.S. very quickly. There's the evening weather there, and we can see gusty northeast winds there in the Los Angeles and Ventura, Santa Barbara area there. North winds coming in off the deserts right there around Desert Rock, Mercury, and Death Valley, and Las Vegas there. And yeah, even Area 51 right there getting some north winds about 10 miles an hour due to this very strong Great Basin high. Let's see what happens overnight. Just a lot of radiation and cooling overnight. Most of the colder air should be off to the east. And then by dawn, we see a lot of 30s and 40s. San Joaquin Valley even getting east winds there. So this is a kind of an indicator of some of the Santa Ana winds even affecting the San Joaquin Valley due to that easterly gradient. And then during the day, things warm up. And then by about 3 or 4 p.m., we're getting up into the 50s there in Vegas, so it is kind of mild area. Another cold night after that due to the dry air. And then we warm up into almost 80 degrees there in the Los Angeles area. And looks like the Santa Ana winds are still blowing. We're seeing some sustained winds there, 15 knots, showing up just north of Los Angeles there. For Texas, let's check that out. What we can see here is a lot of cold air pouring into northwest Mexico. Let me see if I can bring that up. This is during the day today. Yeah, see this right here? That's very inclement weather for the Chihuahua area. Looks like the edge of the front located right here around Durango. And then further to the southwest, we've got warm air right there. So it's getting hung up in the mountains right there, but a lot of cold air. And that's due to the very high tops on this air mass. You see right here, I was showing you how the very top of that air mass is up at about 18,000 feet. It's got considerable depth, so no problem getting over the mountaintops. We're just bringing this cold air mass up into the plateau region of Mexico. And as a result, New Mexico gets or Old Mexico gets very cold in that area. Let's see how cold it's going to be there. So this is Chihuahua right here. That's a major city in that region overnight. Let's see, we get 32 right now, strong northeast winds, and then overnight down to 28. Yeah, 28 all night right there. That's some very brutal weather in that area. The cold air looks like it does filter through some of the mountain passes in this region right here, almost all the way to the Pacific coast. That's very impressive. And looks like, yeah, they're getting some northeast winds there, but looks like a little bit of adiabatic warming. But temperatures along the coast there, they look to be around the 50s. And then warming up during the day too. Let's see. Chihuahua gets up to about 39 there. So I'm sure there's going to be some snow in the higher elevations there of Mexico. And then just a quick look at the rest of the period. Yeah, they warm up into the 30s and 40s. For the rest of Texas, high pressure right there over Oklahoma. That's the ridge shifting southeast. Then it looks like by daybreak, the ridge axis located right there. So that'll be kind of close to where all the cold air is. 30 degrees there in DFW and 31 there at Abilene. Then a very quick warm-up during the day. I think there's going to be a lot of clouds out in this region, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, but a lot of clearing in West Texas. So we have temperatures coming up to the 50s. And then probably another cold night tomorrow night. Yep, freeze line coming all the way down to Houston and down to Austin. And then during the day on Saturday, we come up to the 50s. So just kind of a brisk day. The northwest winds are still coming on down, so still plenty of cold air, but it is modifying pretty significantly there. For the southeast U.S., we've got that front coming through Florida. That's going to be the map for about right now. So the front coming up almost on Sarasota, Lake Okeechobee. And actually it looks like the bulk of the cold air is still up to the north. So I'm not sure what that was. It was either maybe some little secondary boundary, maybe a convective boundary, I don't know. But yeah, it does look like a little bit of cyclogenesis there off in the Gulf Coast. You can see that vorticity right here, kind of a center located right in this region here. Looks like low pressure developing, and that's indicative of maybe a little bit of a frontal system, kind of like that. And let's see what happens during the day Friday. Looks like it kind of develops off in the waters right in that area there. Whatever it is, it's a pretty persistent wave. Offshore, wow, gusts up to 30. Well, actually, this is so there it comes. And then that will sweep through Tampa and Vero Beach and Titusville during the day on Saturday, and there it goes. So I think what we had was some sort of wave developing in this region, kind of locking up the boundary. Here's another wave right here. So you kind of see what's going on there. And then things finally started moving on Friday and Saturday. And then for the northeast U.S., not much to say about that region, just kind of cold weather, westerly flow, very cold nights there, and mild days. What's up with the shading here? It's bizarre. I don't think I've ever seen that. Let's see, what could that be? It doesn't appear there to the very end. And it looks like it's in the higher mountains, whatever that is. I think I lost it there. Okay, let me take one more look at that. That appears, let's see, around 21Z. Huh. Okay, well, I have no idea. All right, so let's head into the forecast here. I think things are going to be moderating here over the next week or so. We'll start with the upper level pattern here. So obviously things are very active across the southern U.S. That's definitely a polar front jet, and then we have kind of a split flow with a secondary polar front jet coming in from the north. So things will progress eastward through the weekend. There's the trough there moving into the eastern U.S. on Sunday, and we have the ridge coming in from the west over the weekend. So things will be warming up in this region here. Then during the day, we've got kind of a reinforcement of cold air, but the long wave ridge keeps moving in. A little bit of a trough off in the southwest U.S. area. But it looks like a trough east and ridge west, and we're talking about the long wave pattern. Large trough here and a large ridge off in the Pacific. So it looks like it should stay kind of mild out in the western U.S. and very cold on the east coast. And definitely very cold there in the northeast U.S. It's been perpetually cold for about the past year, it seems. All right, and then we will look at the precipitation. There's all that snow there in northwest Mexico, in El Paso, Big Bend. I'm sure if there's any photographers in the Big Bend area, they're going to get some amazing shots over the next day in this area here. And let's take that forward into the weekend. And what I'm looking at here is the high pressure. Looks like high pressure right there in the Big Bend and northwest Mexico area. That represents the bulk of the cold air. It's getting trapped in the mountains, and there's another high up in this region here, up in the north deserts. So more cold air getting locked up in the mountains here. And in between, another reinforcing shock coming in through the Dakotas on Saturday, and there it goes southward into the Chicago area. Meanwhile, system comes together off the Carolinas coast. There goes that front into Florida on Saturday. And this front should work up the east coast. And there it goes, but it looks like the bulk of it's going to stay offshore close to the Gulf Stream waters, and a little bit of snow in the New York City and New England area. Then it should be kind of a quiet pattern. High pressure still centered in the mountains. There comes a Alberta Clipper on Tuesday. And that moves into the eastern U.S. on Tuesday into Wednesday. Bit of a snowstorm there in upstate New York and the northeast U.S. And another shot of cold air coming in on Thursday. And here comes another one on Sunday. Looks pretty quiet in Texas. In fact, it looks like we've got kind of a downslope pattern. So even on the Central Plains, Kansas, Nebraska, that should be kind of warm there, even into Denver and Cheyenne. So we're talking about the 16th and 17th here. And then for the 18th, 19th, looks like a little bit more cold air for the northeast U.S. And things get active once again in the northwest U.S. So this looks like another high-pressure system coming into this area here, Alberta, Washington, Idaho. And that's pushing that boundary into Utah. This is on the 20th. So it looks like another potential western U.S. system coming together right there. This looks to be a pretty deep cold air mass there. And that settles in into the central U.S. Another Alberta Clipper coming in from the north for the 22nd. And then we get to the end of the run there. So I think temperatures are going to be fairly mild, especially in the southwest U.S., and they should be kind of cold in the northeast U.S. right there. In between, it's a little bit indeterminate. It's going to depend on the timing of everything. Let me see if I can bring up the CFS and take a look at the long range, just out of curiosity. Give me just a second here. I'm trying to load this up without killing the bandwidth, and I don't think there's any way I can really do that. Yeah, there we go. That might do it. I'll click on the individual frames. I wanted to try taking this up to New Year's just to see what's coming up. There's 564. 588. Yeah, that's going to be new. There we go. There's a forecast there for 2018. This is the climate forecast system. This is a 588-hour forecast, so I don't know whether that's even valid, but that indicates it's going to be probably below normal temperatures up in the northern tier states and pretty mild elsewhere down in the south. Of cold air coming into the southern U.S. there, and looks a little bit stormy there in Oregon. But anyway, that's just kind of a guess. All right, so that's about all I got for this evening's webcast. I appreciate you all joining in. Let me take one last look at the chat. Redesigned website looks great. Yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks to Shannon Key for that. Helping out with the website there. Easier on the eye overall. In fact, she asked me if anybody had made any comments about it, and I said that I hadn't really seen any. Mike R. saying very dry, stable pattern there in Northern California. Nigel Burns with us. Sue M. there in Indiana talking about temperatures dropping into the teens. We've got Salty Pete with us looking for a dusting of snow in D.C. David Holcomb, first snow in San Antonio. Wow. Yeah, they're down closer to that wet bulbing and evaporative cooling. What a learning experience there. Yeah. And Ryan Toomey's saying thanks, and Michael Burrell too. And before I go, let me take a quick look at the surface pattern. I'm going to bring up the UCAR plots and see if I can see some of that snow there in San Antonio. I don't think UCAR is working. Let me try going to Aviation Weather Center. Oh, actually it is. There we go. Yeah, we got snowfall there. Looks like a band from Crockett. Down to, let's see, Lufkin reporting snow. All the way down to Huntsville, College Station. Just south of Austin, around Lockhart. San Antonio getting snow there, 3/4 of an inch, and all the way down to Hondo. So, yeah. Yeah, my cousin down there in San Antonio, I'm going to have to check in with him and see if he's getting anything. So there's that band of snow. Very strong wet bulbing, lots of cold air coming in, and that's really the key there. Not cold air, but the dry air. You can see the temperatures up here in the 20s and even the mid-30s, but it's the dry air, 14 degrees, dew point 15. That's coming in underneath all that mid-level precip, and that's actually the pattern that we had back on January of '85 when San Antonio got 22 inches of snow. It was a pattern almost exactly like this. So I would not be surprised to see some areas get accumulation down south of San Antonio and down along I-10. Okay, so that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you watching the webcast, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow. Take care.